having a discussion around the table with Mrs. Torana Bryan-Granston, a Guyanese. Torana, thank you very much for agreeing to one, speak with us, and congratulations on your recent publishings.
Thank you so much, Iva. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to share on the release of my new works.
Now, Torana, you're here to talk about 7 books that you have recently published that are already out. The persons, can purchase, but they will be available online. What could you tell us about these books?
Oh, wow. There is so much to tell. But for the sake of brevity, I will let you know that these 7 books, they were birthed while in St. Martin in terms of the titles and the outlines of the books. I want to just give God all the glory, the honor, and the praise, because I was inspired by the Holy Spirit to pen these works. And then while in Guyana, the creativity just flowed, and I was able to write 7 books within the space of about 1.5 months. Some folks might say that it may appear to be a bit exceptional, but for me, based on where I am in my life right now, it's not so exceptional, because I had to overcome a great deal of procrastination to be able to get these works out, to get these books out. And so I was really behind time in terms of, my pace and what I should have been doing. And so I am just really grateful that I've been able to finally publish the works. They're published by Heritage Tree Publishers, which is registered in the United States and also in St. Martin. And the titles of the books are R.I.P. Mediocrity, which is a motivational, inspirational book giving people tips and anecdotes and quotes and encouragement to pursue excellence in everything that they do. I also have a book called The Fivefold Mandate, Understanding Your Ministry Calling. This is a Christian book, so it's Christian literature. It talks about the spiritual leadership foundation that the Lord Jesus Christ left, and how this spiritual leadership foundation, which is the apostle, the prophet, the pastor, evangelist, and teacher, why they are still relevant to today's church. Why do we need it for the unity of the body and the maturing of the saints? And then I also have a poetry collection that is very, very personal for me. It's called The Gift of Resilience. One part of the book is poetry, and then the other part of the book is art. So art that I would have designed myself as well. And it focuses on the indomitable spirit of every human being, those that have passed and those that are still to come. I actually consider myself a storyteller.
I know that.
and some of the stories I tell, they're not mine, but they're the stories of a generation of a people. And a lot of the stories in The Gift of Resilience are of the African diaspora. And so I am very, very proud of that work. It talks about things like reparations, being able to bounce back, how a battered woman rises after abuse, dealing with childlessness, and the everyday struggles that we would have, And then I have a short story collection called Coal Pot Chronicles. I grew up on short stories. I've, going to school, we know about V.S. Naipaul and Miguel Street and all of these things, and Jamaica Kincaid, all of the works that she would have written. And so I love this region. I believe that we have more that unites us than divides us. And so Coal Pot Chronicles spans the Caribbean region. In this book, you will see short stories from people in Dominica. In Guyana, I have something special on a kwekwe setting, a soiree, and it's parts of it written in Jamaican patois, in Guyanese Creolese. You have stories that highlight the vices and the virtues of some very special characters in this region. So I'm really super excited by that book. It's serious, tragic, and it's also comedic. And then apart from that, there's 7, so it sometimes takes a while for me to explain them. But apart from that, I have also written a devotional book called Soul Harvest, 100 Days of the Words of Jesus for your health and for your wellness. I think sometimes we focus so much on just the spiritual man, and we forget that man is tripartite being. We are body, we are soul, and we are spirit. And so we just celebrated World Mental Health Day. It's important for us to take care of our mental wellness. How do we govern our mental, and God speaks about that. He addresses that through his son in the 4 Gospels. And so this devotional is a 100 days journey towards you being able to take care of yourself. Why is it important to rest? Why is it important to take time out from everything else? Why is it important for you to take care of your body? How do you feed yourself? All of these things are addressed in this 100 days devotional called Soul Harvest Devotional. And then finally, I have 2 children's books. They're illustrated children's books. One is called Harmonyville, and the other is called The Path to Peace. And both of these books deal with a subject that might seem really, really big, conflict resolution, but it's broken down in a very practical way that parents can read to their children and teach them, as well as teachers can teach their students life skills, coping skills, how to develop and nurture empathy, how do we have tolerance for each other, how do we resolve conflict, without becoming aggressive. Because I really believe, Ivor, that the path to peace starts with understanding each other first, and then having that peace, because we're seeing all over children are becoming extremely violent, and many times it's because many of them do not know how to deal with their frustrations and the internal conflicts that are going on. Some of them have not seen models of things like conflict resolution. What does equity mean to them? What does social justice mean to them? These terms are big terms that adults are talking about, but if we start from the younger generation, introducing this in our curriculum or reinforcing it in our curriculum, teaching children these life skills, then we will not have so many problems later on with juvenile delinquents and violent adults. And so those 2 children's books are also very passionate for me. And all of the books, all 7 works, can be found on Amazon.com. They're in paperback as well as Kindle or ebook copy.
So are you going to have a launch in Guyana of these books?
Yes, definitely. Later on, I will have an official launch in Guyana. The books are available for sale now on Amazon for profit. But for me, it's more than that. I am also a philanthropist. And so what I intend to do at the official launch here, I'll be having a few launches in a few countries. However, my second stop will be in Guyana for the launching. And what I intend to do with these books is also to donate to the National Library, to the Ministry of Education, if they would have these works, so that we can have them in the schools, donate them to youth clubs and so forth. So for me, it's more than just having people coming to an author for a book signing to say that you have received an autographed work and so forth. It's really about effecting change, in the society.
Torana, I know you talk about being inspired by God to produce these books, but how much would you say of your childhood, would have motivated or inspired you to write these pieces?
A whole lot. My childhood was phenomenal. I believe that I received a strong upbringing from my family first, and then I was exposed to a lot of cultural activities. The community that I am from is Mocha Arcadia. I never forget where I am from. And they raised us with strong values, love for the environment, remembering those who have gone before us and what they would have contributed to us being where we are today. And so I had a very empowering childhood. And then, of course, being able to benefit from formal education has also helped me along the way. I'll tell you this, a secret. One of my hobbies growing up was reading. Every essay, every competition, every contest, comprehension, anything you had to write, they asked your favorite hobby. They asked you to write about yourself or do some pen pal thing. I would always write reading in it. And I developed a love for reading by reading not novels, although I eventually progressed into reading novels, Shakespearean works, Caribbean prose. I started reading the newspaper. In those days, a lot of people used to use the newspaper as the bounty, right? Yeah. And the downy. And so, even while I was in my toilet and my mother would be waiting for me, I would be hours in there, not using the bathroom to do anything, but I would be sitting there and reading the newspapers. And that was from as long as I could have even remembered myself. So my formidable years, I always remembered reading. Readers are leaders. And all of this helped to mold and shape me into being what I believe now is a productive member of society.
I know that you would have started a foundation in Mocha. Mm-hmm. And, could you give us a little synopsis on how that is doing, and how do you see the work that these books can aid in what you would have started in Mocha?
Yes, it was in February of this year. I launched a foundation immediately after the death of my grandfather called the Roy Wilson Agape Foundation. And it had two parts, scholarship and then also assisting the local library in Mocha, Arcadia. I felt the need to do that because I had also grown up seeing my grandfather assist a lot of young people in the community in terms of their educational needs. So we decided to spearhead this and give back. We were able to give out scholarships to 7 students. Some are at tertiary institutions like law school in the Bahamas, all the way to the grade 6 assessment. So 7 students in all, and I gave away $100 million towards their educational pursuits. For me, education is very, very important. And when I started my tertiary educational journey, it was my church that assisted me in going to the University of Guyana. And so I felt the need to pay it forward in that way. Apart from that, we donated a quantity of books to the Mocha Library. It was to the tune of about $200,000, I believe. Different books, some spiritual, some educational, some things on herbs, on farming, different things, all new books. And then when I looked at the facility there, I realized that it needed some major maintenance. And so we repaired the roof, renovated the entire library of Mocha, Arcadia, with the blessings of the National Library, of course. And then from then, the foundation just sprang off. It took a life of its own because other young people in the community, as well as community activists and representatives, would have approached me to get my thoughts on what else I see would be necessary for us to do in the community for community development. And so we just completed 2 other projects. One was a cleanup exercise because Mocha was founded on self-help, people pooling their resources together. And so we were able to organize and galvanize people in the community, not to wait for anyone to begin to do a cleanup. It started from the nursery school area, and it was spearheaded and led by one of the counselors, Mr. Lilaton Ramsey. I'm so very proud of him. He's one of my mentees now. And after doing that community cleanup, another thing that happened is that the community center ground, which is just outside of the primary school, the Mocha Arcadia Primary School, that ground has also been renovated. When the president visited the community, there were certain promises that were made in terms of developing the ground so that the ground would be good for the footballers, and even the space that is outside of that for the basketballers, for the children to be able to have their school sports right in the community rather than having to leave, because Mocha is a big community. They were waiting. The representatives from the community have been waiting for a while for this assistance. And you know what? I said, listen, it's not everything that we ought to just wait and depend on the government for. We are a strong community, a group of resilient people, a group of resourceful people. We have what it takes to make it happen. And so some of the counselors in the community there, along with the young men, decided to take up that project of renovating the community grounds so that the students were able to have their sports right in Mocha Arcadia, outside of the primary school. At our level, we were also instrumental in assisting, sponsoring some of these activities. So we believe in public-private sponsorship. Our foundation was also involved in the Mocha Arcadia Village Day, which was another activity. So since we have started, we have been very busy, very, very busy, and we thank God for the grace to be able to make an impact.
Well, that it is excellent, what you have been able to achieve in Mocha. For those of you who may not know, I've known Torana for about 20 years, one of the things that live with me is your presentation in front of the class at UG when we had to, everybody had to do a presentation, and you dressed up in your African wear and you came and just carried it away.
I did. I cannot remember that, but thank you for reminding me.
It always lives with me. Every time I see you, I remember that.
Yes.
Because and it speaks to your creativity, and that's something that I remember about you. So I'm really happy with what you've been able, to do what you've been able to accomplish, and the assistance that you are, giving back to the community that would have nurtured you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, Torana, thanks again for speaking with us.